Hi, Shalom. I hope I said that correct. Sorry if I didn't. Thank you for signing up for this portfolio review. I'm looking forward to looking at your work, and I have your portfolio here, so let's take a look. So I noticed you had a bunch of notes in the form sign up on what you would like me to focus on, which is great. Thank you so much for doing that. I started to click through a bit and I have some notes. One, I think it's okay to have your portfolio homepage like this. That's totally fine. I like that some have motion, some don't. I think that's cool. There's a lot here though. So a few things come to mind is there a way for your homepage to be kind of like a snapshot or a preview of all of the work, and then there another page be all of your projects, right? And on the homepage, could it be like your 4 best projects? Something that I noticed, and you talked about this process page, is that like that's kind of what this is. And when I click on something like process, I'm expecting to see writing. I'm expecting to see descriptions. I'm expecting to see an outline of what your process is, not so much more projects. And that doesn't really give me a sense, like these don't really give me a sense of your process. I know that's something that you were looking to talk about. And you know, that's kind of like the thing that I'm looking for, is that if I want to learn about process or your process specifically, I need writing. I need to read stuff to understand that. And you need to walk me through that. Yes, you can have images that help illustrate that, but I'm expecting to sort of read something that you've written that describes who you are, what your process may be, the steps that you take, or the how you work with clients, things like that. Just showing more projects doesn't really make sense to me. And I get what you're trying to do of like, here are projects that help illustrate my process. But still, the one thing that I'm seeing across a lot of your work is that these projects don't really have any description or, you know, overview or context about them. You just get into the work. And that to me is not something that I advocate for. I think that contributes to more of what you mentioned about being a wrist or being a pair of hands, right? When you're just showing the work and you're not really articulating for the viewer or the visitor what it was and talking them through the important points or any problems or your process in these projects. It's a missed opportunity. What were the other things that you wanted to talk about? Um, so yeah, I think like your mix of projects is okay. I mean, I guess like I understand that you have some stuff here that is more image focused, or I'm sorry, music focused. And sorry for my Wi-Fi. Um, but this is kind of going back to this idea of like it contributing to people only viewing you as a creative pair of hands, right? When you show work like this, when it's just images of nice things that you've made, you're gonna see that people are just gonna say, hey, I'd like to work with you. I have all these ideas. I want you to do them for me. Like that's kind of the conversation. Um, and while these, either maybe self-initiated projects or these music projects are very sort of like, I don't want to say surface level, but you have a lot of these things where it's like design and visual direction, but you're really just putting together, the album cover, right? And that's not enough for me to kind of get that sense of you want to focus on the strategy, you want to focus on the concept rather than just the execution, because what a lot of your showing is execution. And so a few things are like, how do we include more of your thought in your process, and how do you articulate that? Beyond coming up with the vinyl artwork and the cover, how can you go beyond and show what a marketing campaign would be, what a social media campaign would be, what their website would be? It's not enough for me. And I think a lot of designers who have an interest in working in the music industry immediately gravitate to wanting to show all their vinyl mock-up artwork because that's such an easy mock-up to grab off the internet. and they want to do a bunch of those, and they think that's going to draw clients to them. And I think that's actually the opposite. I think it's so overdone that you need to take it a step further. You also mentioned in your form that you were, I'm wondering if there are any potential barriers I've been aware of. I put my website together. It's difficult to present multiple skills. I don't think it's really a matter of presenting multiple skills. I know you mentioned you also are working more of like a semi-corporate job during the day. I don't think your portfolio is corporate really. But I think one thing that people sort of just assume is that because you have your portfolio up and you're doing work in the music industry, you're geared towards the music industry, that people are just going to flock to you. And I don't think that's the case. I think what happens, or what should kind of happen, is that you need to go out and start networking. You need to start connecting with people in the music industry, in your local scene, in your local area, your town, your city, whatever it may be. You need to start building those connections. People aren't just going to flock to you. Yes, there are some designers or creatives out there in the world that happens, and that's great for them. But the majority, and I would also consider myself the majority, like I go and build those connections and professional network because I know that is going to work out, and that's going to be way more fruitful for me in the future moving forward than it is to just hope that people come to look at my work and want to work with me. Getting in front of people, meeting new people is also really important. Is this the guy? No, that's not the guy from TikTok. It's interesting that, yeah, you have your clients here, but in this presentation, I would want to see, like, when there's not a logo, I'd want to see like like the title or the name of the group on the page. I don't want to have to hover over it. Western Canadian Music Award winning outlet by one. Yeah, see, this stuff to me doesn't really make sense. It's like words that we've really put together that we think is like what outlining your process is. But again, when you're talking to someone who's not a creative or not in the creative industry, not a designer, not someone who works in that way, works visually, this doesn't make sense. And it still kind of doesn't make sense to me either right now, looking at it. Also, if you have awards, you should be including that somewhere. You should be including the awards somewhere. So think about that. And again, I think it would be helpful to reorganize this idea of like, what's a homepage where every time I click on that homepage, it's going to show me your first 3 or 4 most important projects that have the most context, that have the most complete set of work. And then, because you have a lot of stuff here, and again, I don't really advocate for showing a ton of this stuff like this. But then maybe there's another page that has your entire collection of all the projects that you've worked on. I would move the idea of like including something about your process into like the about page, or, however you want to label it, that's fine. But I think like really thinking about what it is that you do and how do you capture that? How do you write that down? I think that's really important. I think you're kind of struggling with that at the moment. And yeah, I think my other note is just make sure, don't rely so much on just sharing your work online and hoping that people flock to it. Get out there, get on LinkedIn, start making connections with people that you want to work with in the industries that you want to work with, and continue doing that over and over and over again. No matter how many people don't message you back, I think that is going to be, one, really good for you. You're going to build connections that will really bring you further into your career. And also, I think it'll get you a little bit out of your mind of only being an executioner, I guess, someone who only executes. You'll start to think more of that business sense. You'll get more of like, how do we have these conversations with clients, and how do I present myself in those conversations as a designer, as someone who wants to work closely with them and not just a pair of hands. So yeah, thank you so much for signing up for this. I hope you found this helpful. And if you have any questions, feel free to email me, and have a good day.